What cars are people actually buying? You will see every month that the Ford Ranger or the Toyota Hilux are the best selling cars in Australia. Either one. Sometimes the RAV4 randomly pops up there. But if you have a think about it, those are expensive cars. They're not just expensive. The Toyota Hilux, for example, is a bad car. Just objectively a bad car. But of course, it's not actually a car, is it? It's a ute. And that's the issue with this data. Ford Ranger, best-selling car. Toyota Hilux, best-selling car. These aren't cars. These are utes, these are trucks, and all of the data from VFACTS and even EV Council is actually quite skewed because it takes into account things like government purchases, fleet buyers who don't just buy, one, two, three, they buy 10, hundreds, thousands even. So a lot of that data is extremely skewed. How do you actually know what is selling in Australia? Well, we know. And we know because so many of you purchase cars through our car buying service, CarSauce Buy. If you don't know, CarSauce Buy, it is the best way to buy any new car. Obviously, I'm biased to say that, but I truly believe it. And thousands of you also believe it clearly because you have used that service and saved hundreds, thousands of dollars off your next new car. So if you want to use that service, and I'll talk a little bit more about it a bit later, scan the QR code on your screen right now or just Google CarSauce Buy. But what I've done today is I've gone through all of the data, all of the cars that have sold up until the end of July of this year, because I can see in the background that people aren't just going out and buying masses of Toyota Hiluxes. Quite the contrary. In fact, a lot of people are actually trying to save as much money as possible, and so they're going for really wacky and wild choices that I kind of love. So I'm going to tell you all about that today. I've got my data here, so let's go through it. There's a few things that I've come across in this data, and you'll see as we go along the video, but I've got three main points I've written down. One is that brand loyalty has just fallen off a cliff. People aren't just going to buy a Toyota or a Ford, the staples of Australian car sales. Trust me, they still sell, but so many people are actually moving to Chinese cars, and you will see that in the data. It's crazy. But also, there is just so much financial pressure that for the average Aussie, the people who come and purchase car through CarSauce Buy, they are your average Australian. We don't advertise our services to fleets or governments. CarSauce Buy has grown completely organically through our videos and through word of mouth. So these are just everyday Australians, which is probably why this data is actually more representative of the cars that normal people are actually buying. And there is clearly so much financial pressure in Australia because a lot of the cars that we are selling, they're actually cheap cars. Cars that you probably don't expect to be the cars that people buy. It's quite mind-blowing. So yeah, times are tough. People are looking for practicality and affordability and cheapness, frankly. They're looking for something that will last them a long time and they'll have a good time with, but they don't want to pay much money. So that's a good reason to use CarSauce Buy because like I said, we save hundreds, if not thousands off of every new car. And I mean that. It is by far the best way to buy any new car and I will stand by that hand on heart. Let's talk about the top 10 inquiries. Now, this is different to the top 10 sales. We will come back to what are the actual top 10 selling cars in Australia, but or at least based on our data. Really, it tells us what's hot in Australia, what people are actually searching and looking for as opposed to what is necessarily selling. But there is a bit of a correlation. So number 10, and this is going from lowest to highest in terms of search volume, the GWM Cannon Alpha. So that's interesting. It's not necessarily the cheapest ute in Australia, although they did just cut the price for the plug-in hybrid again. So it's really undercutting the BYD Shark 6. But it's interesting because the GWM Cannon Alpha is not very cheap, but it is just so affordable. Yes, it still costs over 50 grand on the roads, well over for some trims, but you get so many inclusions. So I guess I'm not too surprised to see it there, but interesting, it's number 10. Number 9 is the GWM Haval H6. That I'm less surprised about. A lot of people are purchasing that, even though I still think it does have some issues, especially with under thigh support and comfortability. Frankly, a lot of people are looking for that because it's cheap and affordable. Isuzu. They're coming in with the MUX at number 8. That one kind of surprised me because I think there are better vehicles out there. We've said that in our videos as well. The facelift helped a bit, but still I would go for a Ford Everest over an Isuzu MUX, but people love the 3-litre 4JJ3 engine that comes in that car, although I'm about to go to a launch for the 2.2-litre version of that car. And unfortunately, that beloved 4JJ3 3-litre 4-cylinder turbo diesel engine, it's not gonna be in Australia for much longer. So if you wanna buy one of those, put in your inquiry now because yeah, those are going. unfortunately, due to emissions. The Hyundai i30, now that's interesting. A lot of people are actually looking for the i30N. That is by far the best selling, probably because I love the i30N, and I've said that in many videos, so a lot of people, do search it as a result of that. Ford Everest. Number 6, that definitely makes sense, sitting higher than the MUX, but actually the margin between the amount of leads is not that many. Still, number 6 on the list, a very good 7-seat family off-road SUV. I really like it. Here you go, India fanboys. Mahindra XUV 3XO, that's number 5. And that kind of makes sense. We did some advertorial around the Mahindra XUV 3XO. And by the way, if you ever see advertorial on CarSauce, I promise you, and this is my word of honor to you, we will only ever advertise cars that we think are really worth it. And the manufacturers we work with, they are not allowed to tell us what we have to say. And that is really important because I know that if I put out a video praising a car, that can really sway a lot of you into purchasing that car. And so there is so much responsibility on myself, on Daddy Jacob, on everyone in the CarSauce team that we have to be very, very careful and nothing but honesty, because that could really affect people's lives. So yeah, I'm not surprised to see Mahindra there, especially after we did all that advertorial. But number 5. Number 4 is the GWM Tank 300, self-explanatory, body on frame, fantastic value Chinese SUV, really cool looking, drives very well as well, especially with the diesel. Number 3. GWM Cannon. That's super interesting as well. So a lot of people really like the GWM Cannon, us included. Again, we did some advertorial for them, so not 100% surprised that it's in the top 3, but it's a fantastic value ute, particularly after they updated it with the 2.4 liter turbo diesel. Way better as a result. It's also a really nice interior and you can get it for like 40 grand. So when you compare it to like the Jack T9 that I owned, which by the way, when I purchased it through CarSauce Buy, I got, what was it? It was about 6 grand actually off of the price. So yeah, you can save a lot of money with CarSauce Buy, but yes, still not worth it at that price point. You should go for the GWM Cannon every single time. And then number 1 and 2, this is crazy to me. Both are technically the same car, but one is just a different powertrain. Number 2 on this list, by a huge margin, is the Chery Tiggo 4 Hybrid. That's crazy. So many of you have been searching for the Chery Tiggo 4 Hybrid. And then number 1 is the Chery Tiggo 4. So the regular Chery Tiggo 4. Why are those two at the top of the lead list? Well, honestly, value. Huge value. Also, I did buy the car, so I really like that. That wasn't advertorial, that was just me being really curious and wanting to purchase the car and see. And it was one of the only things I could afford at the time because it was the cheapest car you could buy in Australia. But still, absolutely insane that that's 2 and 1. And when I say by a huge margin, I mean that is like, God, 30% of the search volume of CarSauce Buy at the moment, or at least up until the end of July. It has changed a little bit. So top 2 spaces, number 2 and number 1, because that's just how the data was broken out at this time. That is the Chery Tiggo 4 and Tiggo 4 Hybrid. Crazy. But what this shows you is that Chery and GWM, they're dominating. 1 in 3 of all inquiries on CarSauce Buy are actually Chinese cars, Chery or GWM, and they're the value brands in Australia right now. Nothing really else comes close to their pricing. So poof, mind blowing. But also SUVs and utes are clearly king, because where is a sedan on that list? There aren't. They're all SUVs and utes. That's just the time we live in. Also, notice what is missing there, which is Hilux and Corolla or Camry. None of those are in there. Why? Because so many people who purchase that, well, I say people, they're fleets, they're governments. Those numbers are heavily skewed. So what about the top 10 cars sold? And for this one, I've actually combined the Chery Tiggo 4 into one slot because it was just too messy to have it in 2 slots, and I wanted to get more cars on this list. But these are the top 10 according to you, the average punter who goes out and purchases a car through CarSauce Buy. So number 10, this one shocked me. MG ZS. Why does that shock me? Well, I have not liked any MG ZS I drove, except for the turbo. So we drove the turbo, we didn't review the turbo, but we drove the base spec MG ZS with the naturally aspirated petrol engine. It was so slow to the point that I thought it was actually quite dangerous. But before that, we actually reviewed the hybrid, and the hybrid, it was super duper interesting because it was really powerful, 150 kilowatt of power from like the electric motor alone, something crazy like that. However, up a hill, it would drain the battery. And then you would get something like 70 kilowatt alone just from the petrol engine, which was not enough to accelerate it up a hill. So it would decelerate up a hill. So quite a bad issue. And then as a result of my video, they did issue a fix, although I don't know if they've rolled it out properly yet. So that's not cool if that's not true, but I've heard mixed reports. So anyway, I'm shocked to see the MG ZS there, but clearly there are some great deals to be had on the MG ZS through CarSauce Buy. Number 9, Cherry Tiggo 8. Again, surprising because this wasn't on one of the most inquired lists, but still that is number 9 on the list. And it's a good 7-seat family SUV. Number 8 is the Cherry Tiggo 7. And I'm not entirely surprised by that because it's a fantastic value 5-seat SUV. And you can get it for like under 30 grand drive away. So that is just great value. If you have just a regular sized family and need something that will get you from point A to point B and totally fine comfort, then that's a great car. Number 7, here's where we differ from VFAX, Ford Ranger. Yes, Australia's best-selling car is not our best-selling car. It is still on the top 10 list, and it makes sense because of all the utes at the moment, it is just still the best overall package. It's just such a great jack of all trades. And so if you are privately going out to purchase a ute, or you're just a tradie and you're on your own, you're buying a ute, i.e. not a fleet going through CarSauce Buy, then yeah, the Ford Ranger is still by far the ute I would recommend. It's just such a good all-rounder. Number 6, GWM Tank 300. Not surprised to see this on the list. Again, such a competent, fantastic off-roader, looks great and is cheap. It's also like, honestly, luxury. The amount of money that GWM pours specifically into their tank products, which in other markets is its own brand, is insane. So you get such good value out of a GWM tank. And the 300 is number 6 on the list, I'm not surprised. Number 5, I'm a little bit surprised by, again, the Hyundai Tucson. The reason I'm surprised by that is because it kind of just flies under the radar for me. It is a vehicle that we have recommended on the channel before. I think it's decent value, not quite as incredible as a Chinese car, but still good value nonetheless. But the fact that that is sitting at number 5 of all the cars that we sell on CarSauce Buy, we sell a lot of cars on CarSauce Buy. Again, maybe there's just some fantastic deals to be had there. And so it's just converting higher. Like people who put in their details, see the price, they're like, okay. And therefore they go for it. So, you know, pop off King, pop off Hyundai. Number 4, shocked by this one. Isuzu MUX, again, I can't believe it. The reason, again, I can't believe it is because I think that the Ford Everest is better. And so to be so high up on the list, it kind of just blows my mind. But I'll leave it there. The 3-litre engine is a good engine. Then at number 3 is the GWM Cannon, which doesn't surprise me. If you don't have the money to purchase a Ford Ranger, which let's be honest, a lot of us don't have, 60, 70 grand to just drop on a Ford Ranger, then at 40 grand, a GWM Cannon will give you 95% of the ute of Ford Ranger. And in some cases, it comes even closer or better. It's just such a competent ute. I'm really impressed by the GWM Cannon. And no, it's not just because we've done advertorial with them. I really like it. Like I said, I wouldn't say anything I don't actually believe because we owe that to you. Number 2, Ford Everest. So that I'm not surprised by. The fact that it sits above the Isuzu MUX and this portion of the market, which is off-road, family, 7-seat SUVs, people love these cars. They absolutely love them. So yeah, the state of the market is absolutely reflected in that. And coming in at number 1, this just, again, blows my mind. You could probably guess what it is. It's the Cherry Tiggo 4, and this combines both the hybrid and the regular Tiggo 4. So this sells 4 times more than the Ford Everest on our platform. So even though Ford Everest is number 2, the Cherry Tiggo 4 sells 4 times more. Why? Because it is the cheapest SUV you can purchase in Australia, but it's also good. It speaks for itself. And if you have a look at VFAX, the Cherry Tiggo 4 is actually one of the highest selling cars in Australia. At least last month, it broke into the top 10. I'm not sure exactly where it sits for this month. It can get confusing, especially with those fleet sales, but on our platform, it is number 1. And I don't know about you guys, but where I live in Victoria, I just see so many driving around all the time. And yes, I think that purchasing one definitely had an impact, but I'm not seeing a lot of Jack T9s here, although I didn't speak very highly of that, did I? But the fact that this is selling 3 times more than our second bestseller, and this year alone, we have sold well over 1,000 cars on CarSauce Buy. Honestly, this whole thing blows my mind. And by the way, if you have ever purchased a car from CarSauce Buy, I'm really curious. I should send out a survey or something, but leave a comment down below. How much have you saved on a car? Because clearly a lot of people are saving money on the Tiggo 4 and are purchasing it, even though it is still the cheapest car in Australia. But it also points, like I said, to the fact that nothing in this world is stable at the moment. Nothing in this world is cheap. People don't just want to park all of their money pun intended, into a car, because that's quite scary, right? It's a depreciating asset. So you want to save as much money as possible. The Chery Tiggo 4 is already the cheapest car you can purchase in Australia, almost affordable if you hate the term cheap, and it makes total sense in my eyes that that is the #1 selling car. Here's some fun facts I wrote down here. So Hilux, we've sold less than 10 of them this year. Like I said, fleets may be purchasing a Hilux, government may be purchasing Hilux, but the average punter is not going out to purchase a Hilux, which I'm not surprised by. That thing is old, it's due for a refresh, and it's coming next year. So sales for that privately are down, but people, at least fleets, I just love a Hilux. Cool. And so once I wrote down all this data and I figured out what are the top 10 inquiries and top 10 sales, I thought, what are the top 10 brands? Because if you think about it, there was no like Volkswagen there, which in their prime sold close to 50,000 cars a year in Australia, but we don't see anywhere near that anymore, which is not a reflection on their cars, because if you drive a Volkswagen, you'll know that a Volkswagen drives really, really well. I think it's a product of, well, pricing strategy and maybe some other things as well. So in terms of top 10 brands that sell in Australia based on our data, number 10 is Mazda. Joint 8 and 9 is actually MG and Toyota. You might be wondering, how the hell are you selling just as many Toyotas as MGs? But it actually makes total sense because so many fleets purchase Toyotas. That's why Toyotas are by far the best selling brand in Australia. A lot of their sales are fleet sales. But if you're just an average punter, you want to save some money, you'll buy a bloody MG. That's typically what I see. Number 6 and 7, joint, it's actually Kia and Isuzu. So you might be wondering, why didn't I see any Kias on that list above? It's actually because there's a big spread of Kia models that are sold as opposed to Isuzu, which just have 2. They have the D-Max and the MUX. Number 5, this shocked me, is Mitsubishi. Like, okay, I don't know what we're selling. I guess we're just selling a bunch of Tritons for a discounted price because they've been discounting them quite a lot. Hyundai, actually double the volume of Mitsubishi, so at number 4, which again, surprised me. We must just be selling a bunch of them, but we are selling a lot of the i30Ns in particular. People love those, and clearly Tucsons. Ford are number 3, and that is of course because of the Ranger and Everest. No one really buys any of their other models, except for a couple of Mustangs here and there. GWM, they are number 2. And then double GWM's volume is Chery at number 1. So many of you are purchasing Chery, and that is why Chery, which also includes Jayco Motor and all of their other sub-brands, are the number 1 seller on CarSauce. You guys cannot get enough of Chery. And my only hypothesis for that is because their cars are pretty decent. Obviously, very good value for the Tiggo 4, which is by far our best-selling vehicle. I don't think the number 1 best-selling car is the Hilux for the average punter, the normal person. I think that's the best-selling car, once you include all of the extras that completely inflate the sales of that. And that got me thinking, what are the split of sales of country of origin for those brands based on our data? Well, 53% of the cars that we sell are Chinese brands. That's crazy because the next highest is 15%, and that is Korean brands. So by far, the biggest seller of cars in Australia are actually from China. Japan is at 14%, number 3. Number 4, weirdly, the US. I guess it's US brands like Ford. Europe is 2%, which is, oh my gosh, people are just not buying those more premium European brands anymore, I see. Again, probably because of price. And then we have other, like a lot of our sales also come from Mahindra, for example, and that is India. So more than half of our sales actually come from China. Again, I think that's mind-blowing. And that is for a few reasons. 1, 100% value and what you get for what you pay. 2, stock availability. They can make cars really fast in China. I think I've done like 7 factory tours in China, and so much of the factory is just blanked out, or like lights literally off, because they can make cars just with machines, which is probably the better way to make cars, let's be honest. Human error is a pretty big thing. And also sharp pricing, naturally. But Korea and Japan are still quite strong. We are still seeing a lot of sales from Hyundai, Kia, Toyota, Mitsubishi, I can't believe that, and Isuzu as well. And really the USA is completely propped up because of the Ranger and Everest. Interestingly, both of those models are designed by Australians. And Europe is just almost completely absent. And I feel bad for them in a way, because if you bring a car in from Europe, it's so much further than bringing a car in from Asia that it costs a lot more. So even like a Skoda Kamiq, which is sharply priced at just under $30,000, you know, if that was made in China, it would probably be $24,000. And I think it would be a much better competitor to something like a Tiggo 4. But it's not made there, it's made in Europe. That costs a lot of money to bring to Australia. And I thought this was pretty funny as well. I wanted to give the most expensive car that we sold on CarSauce Buy in 2025, and that was a Chevrolet C8 Corvette. Yes, someone purchased a C8 Corvette through CarSauce Buy. Whoever you are, I hope you got a fantastic deal. I'm sure you did. Let me know in the comment section if that was you. Probably saved tens of thousands on that thing. So that is it. Those are the cars that Aussies are actually buying in Australia, at least purchasing through CarSauce Buy. But like I said, we've had well over 1,000 people purchase a car. These aren't leads. These are people who've gone out and literally paid the money for the car. But it's representative of the average person, right? It's not skewed by fleets, by government purchases. It's you going out and purchasing a car. So if you want to purchase any new car and you want the best price possible, scan the QR code on your screen right now, or just Google CarSauce Buy. Our team will help you. We have a dedicated team of car buyers, and it's no obligation as well. So until you literally pay for your car, you don't have to pay anything and you're not obliged to pay anything. So that sounds good to you. Like I said, scan the QR code or just Google CarSauce Buy and let me know what you guys think. I'm so curious to hear what you have to say. This data kind of blew my mind. I've never really done a deep dive into the cars that we sell, but clearly so much of that are Chinese cars, and it makes sense, right? If you're out on the street anywhere in Australia right now, I swear to God, 1 in 2 cars now are Chinese cars. And that makes total sense because people don't want to spend stupid amounts of money on cars, and Chinese cars are typically quite cheap. This has been an eye-opening experience. Ciao for now.